Let's examine some disorders of bone tissue. Now, disorders of bones usually result from imbalances in deposit of bone tissue, resorption or removal of bone tissue, or some combination of the two here. We'll focus primarily on three disorders. The first is osteomalacia, also known as rickets. The second that we'll take a look at is osteoporosis. And the third will be Paget's disease. So let's focus first on osteomalacia and rickets. Now, this disorder is called osteomalacia in adults. The same disorder is called rickets in children. So these are two different names given to the exact same condition. And that condition is that bones are too soft to support body weight. And this occurs when there is too little calcium deposited into the osteoid of the bone extracellular matrix. And this usually results from a diet that is low in calcium, or if the person has a vitamin D deficiency. Now, vitamin D is important in helping the intestines absorb calcium from the food that we eat. And so if vitamin D is low, that means that very little calcium will be absorbed from any of the food that we consume. And this condition is more apparent in children than it is in adults because developing bones, particularly the weight-bearing bones, will tend to bend under body weight. So you'll get bent legs and bent pelvic bones as a result of these bones trying to grow at the same time that they are too soft to support body weight. And so you get the bending or the bow-shaped legs with the weight-bearing bones. So that is osteomalacia and rickets. So let's turn our attention now to osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a condition that results when the resorption or the removal of bone tissue occurs at a faster rate than the deposit of bone tissue. And so this results in an overall loss of bone mass. And so basically our bone breakdown is occurring at a greater speed or rate than bone building is occurring. Now this occurs more commonly in women than in men, and the main reason why this is that women tend to have a lower overall skeletal mass, that is, they have lower overall bone mass than men do. And so one of the things that the hormone testosterone helps to do is to build skeletal mass. And so because generally women have lower amounts of circulating testosterone in their bloodstream after adolescence, then they don't build as big of a skeleton, or I should say as their bone mass is less dense than that of men. So a number of risk factors can contribute to osteoporosis. One of those risk factors is decreased sex hormone levels, particularly estrogens in premenopausal women. So in premenopausal stages, what you'll get drops in circulating estrogen levels, and these lower levels of sex hormones will actually cause the osteoclasts, the bone breakdown cells, to accelerate their work. And so when those hormone levels start to drop, osteoclasts kind of start to pick up in their breakdown of bone tissue. And so that kind of accelerates the rate at which bone tissue is broken down. Another risk factor includes any reduction in weight-bearing exercise. So if a person is bedridden or is not as active as they once were, then that contributes to lower bone density. Also, of course, poor dietary calcium or vitamin D, just as we saw with osteomalacia and rickets. And also smoking is a risk factor because smoking, among other things, reduces estrogen levels, and it also reduces the absorption of calcium from our diet, and so that has a negative impact on our skeleton. Last but not least, we'll take a look at Paget's disease. And this is a disease that is caused by really kind of a random or haphazard deposit of bone tissue. So remember that we saw that bone is generally deposited where mechanical forces are applied to it. In Paget's disease, bone deposit is random, so it's not really driven by the forces that are applied to the skeleton. And so because of this, the skeleton is not reinforced in the places that it should be, and so this results in an overall weakening of the bone tissue itself. The cause is largely unknown. It's thought to be triggered, though, by by a viral infection.